Welcome to the Echo Effect podcast, where we share stories of exceptional practices that result in extraordinary results. The stories shared on the Echo Effect podcast are about positively impacting people. The guests on this show are those who are either receivers or givers of the positive impact or exceptional experience, and are telling their stories to inspire others and remind us all that even though we sometimes don't realize it, we do make a positive impact. By speaking our stories and putting it out into the world, we create what we call the Echo Effect. I am Elaine Simpson, your host of the Echo Effect podcast, and today I have Kricket Harrison, who is also a fellow member of the National Speakers Association. She is a performance and productivity expert working with businesses to grow their bottom line faster through speaking and presentations. As a professional speaker, Kricket is known for her dynamic and interactive presentations on the human side of business. Kricket has a degree in psychology and organizational communication from the University of Texas. She's active in many networking organizations and is a professional member of the National Speakers Association, as I said earlier, and she currently serves on the board of directors for the Georgia chapter, which I serve on the board of directors for the Arizona chapter, so we have a lot in common. So welcome, Kricket. How are you?
Well, thank you, Elaine. I'm great.
Good. So you have a really nice, wonderful story, and I'd like you to share it with us. And, we might digress because we are speakers and we like to talk. Yeah. So help us all, right? All right, Kricket. So give us your story. Tell us kind of what you wanted to talk about on the Echo Effect.
Yeah, so I loved it when I learned you were doing this because I did share this message, and they're just, it's like just, you need to get it out. We don't hear enough positive stuff. So as you know, we're all traveling, and I was staying at I was at a conference in North Dallas, but it was kind of far North Dallas, and my mom was from Dallas, and she still had her house there. She had passed away just really about 6 weeks before. And I was thinking, okay, I'm going to go to this conference, right? I was all about making use of my time, and I'm going to go to this conference, and then I'm going to come down into town and stay near her house to clean out her house. So I went from one Embassy Suites hotel where the conference was. So I said, I'll just switch to the one. There was one right by her house, great location, avoided all traffic, which was huge. Mm-hmm. And as I'm checking into the front desk, they get my name, and they said, oh, Mrs. Harrison, is everything all right? We see you just came from our other hotel. Was there a problem? And I said, oh, no, not at all. I said, my conference ended and I need to be close to my mom's house. And of course, the conversation, you think you're not going to bare your soul, but when you're grieving or hurting, things come out. And they said, oh, you're visiting your mom. And I said, well, I'm actually here to clean out her house and the AC's broken, so I can't stay there. And the front desk staff, I remember there were two women, and then I can't remember if the third one was a man or a woman. I think it was a man, walked out from the back. I guess I was kind of the only person there at the time. Uh-huh. And the hotel has this great lobby, but the rooms are very outdated, but the location was perfect. So, I mean, they were busy, but they weren't super busy. They were definitely a hotel of a convenient location for the people that had to be there. So hotel staff at the front, by now all three of them are up front. And they looked at me and I said, don't do it. You're going to make me cry, and they're like, oh, I'm so sorry. And I said, look, it's really all good. Y'all are in an excellent location. I can zip on the freeway, get to mom's house in 5 minutes. And of course, Embassy Suites have breakfast. They have an afternoon happy hour. They have meals. Like all that was great. Gave me a space to be outside of my room. So I check into my room and I come back down and they looked at me and they're just like, good luck, and I'm kind of thank you. And I'm trying not to be overly emotional. And I go to mom's house, sweltering heat in Dallas. Probably that was the week, give or take, that it was 107 or so. I'm there about 2 hours, and being in that heat can really wipe you out. Mm-hmm. And I come back to the hotel just wanting to pass out in a, ice cold refrigerator, air conditioned room, right? Just like, what can I peel off? Right. Just so kind of focused on, I need to get out of this space, right? And I walk into my room and there's a vase of flowers and a card. Yeah. And the card is signed by the whole main level staff. And it's a sympathy card for my mom in under 2 hours. So somebody had to leave work. I know. I mean, who does that? Really, who does that? Were they slammed? Not quite. I will tell you by the evening they were. So it's not like they didn't have things going on, but they took the time, someone took the time to had to physically leave the property find a card, and I don't know about you, but even if I'm just getting a casual card, I'm going to look at more than one.
Oh, well,
So I
and then
know
you
there
start
was
looking at
time and
all the
effort.
cards.
Yeah. Yeah. And then the flowers in a vase with water, and all the signatures on the card. And I lost it at that point, everything because I was just like, really, I was a guest in the hotel, yes, but at the same level, I was a stranger. They had a job to do. Somebody had to leave work, go do this, go to the store, go to wherever they got everything, and come back. And I was just blown away. I was very fortunate to grow up as what I call kind of an airline brat. Both my parents were in the airline industry. I was very fortunate to travel a lot and stay in a lot of different hotels. And, you know, when a bigwig comes into hotels, they're great about putting stuff on the pillow. But for the everyday person coming in for all those travel reasons, sometimes that we don't think about, that some of them aren't the happiest, like that just blew me away. It was the kindest thing I think I'd ever experienced like that.
Well, and you know, you probably are now a very loyal
Oh, absolutely.
fan.
And I had my brothers, we were back there at Christmas, and I said, this is where you're staying.
Well, you know, it doesn't have to be a huge effort to make an impact, right? It's when you're in that moment where you really you don't even realize that you need that kind of attention. And, you know, having been through it with my husband's death and all that, I understand. It's like you don't even want to go there because you know it's emotional. So a lot of times you walk around keeping it in, and they obviously knew that you needed a little bit more love. And so to do that, it didn't cost them a lot of money. Yeah, they did have to run out and do all that, but it made such a positive impact when it could have been just a really bad day. I mean, when you've got a lot of stress and things like that going on, even the smallest negative thing turns out to be this huge, blown out, crazy, you know, just horrible situation. So on top of that, you're going a complete opposite direction where they're doing this very simple, small gesture that you probably have shared with hundreds of people at this point. And that's huge. So when you got back to the room and you saw the flowers and things like that, what was the first thought that went through your mind?
It was, oh my gosh, I can't believe someone did this for me that doesn't know me. I mean, people send flowers. All Mom's friends were lovely when she passed, and her friends still check on me. But, you know, these were people I'd never met. They didn't know any of us. They just got the feeling from me of where I was, and probably the same way so many of us are when we're around somebody else that is grieving or hurting. You just kind of feel what they're feeling. And I think I called my husband immediately, and I'm like, you're not going to believe what these people did for me. They don't even know me.
Oh, wow.
You know? And like you said, it doesn't have to be a grand gesture. And it was an effort on their part, but it wasn't like a hard effort. But yeah, I recognize that they put thought and time, and they did this, and they must have done it quickly. Cause like I said, I wasn't gone that long.
Right.
But I really remember this, like they see me, you know, they get it.
I'm relevant.
Yeah. Yeah. And what's funny is I called them to thank them. I'm like, y'all are going to make me cry again. And she's like, no, you're going to make me cry. Yeah. And every time I'd walk in and out, they're like, are you okay? Or they'd hand me a bottle of water. How are you doing? How are you doing?
Well, and I think it's important to realize, and I think many of us don't even think of it this way, but you know, you think of travel and hotels as being a vacation or a business trip or something like that. Yeah. There's often other things that people going through, even if they are there for business or something else. But to be there specifically to do a job like cleaning out your mother's house after she passed is a very big challenge. And, you know, the individuals of the hotel that recognized, it wasn't the hotel, it was the individuals that recognized it. And, you know, kudos to the hotel, because obviously they hired the right people to be, you know, that would do that type of thing. But, you know, for those individuals to actually do it is huge. So having that impact on you, has that changed, or do you do things like buying flowers for somebody or reaching out to them when you know they're in a situation now more than you did before? I mean, are you more aware of it, or what, because you've experienced it, did it change your behavior at all?
It's such an interesting question, Elaine. I would say taking care of my mom for 4 years did a lot of that. I see so much that I didn't see before. I see a beautiful smile before that might have not been noticed. I see things and appreciate things so much more. The difference in this was it was doing something, the little effect of doing something for somebody that you don't really know. And so yes, we had some friends that and we're like acquaintance friends, but not close. And she hadn't shared much with me, but she lost her father probably about 2 or 3 months ago now. And I looked at my husband, I said, we're sending them flowers. He's like, they haven't even told us anything. I said, I don't care. I know what it's like. Somebody's got to know she was the caregiver. She was the one taking care of, trying to deal with things. And so it is. Sometimes I pick up the phone. People don't use the phone anymore.
No.
It's like my kids have a hard time understanding that the phone was originally to talk on, and it's not just a handheld computer, right?
Right.
And so it's just, with everything we've been going through, we were joking about getting our hair done, and my hairdresser has a lung issue that he's had since birth. Picked up the phone. Hey, I know you guys are thinking about opening. You have been on my mind. How are you? Making that effort. And like you said, like we were talking at the beginning, the effort doesn't have to be huge. It's just showing someone you care. These days when everything is online or automated or fast or, just a passing thought because we have so much going on, it's kind of almost in a sense slows the world down for a minute and lets you catch your breath. And like I said, so somebody sees you, they acknowledge where you are, they get you. And I think at our core, that's just what we want.
Right. Well, and that, the whole purpose of this podcast is to talk about the echo effect, because I'm a firm believer that if, your experience, you now do things a little bit differently, or you may do something entirely different that you didn't do before, but because of the impact they had on you, you now do it. That's what the echo effect is all about. It's not necessarily big, grandiose gestures or, expensive gifts or experiences. It sometimes is the smallest thing in the world. And I think right now with where we're, things are going right now between COVID and the other things going on in the country right now, the smallest gestures make the biggest impact right now, especially when they're to people that you don't know. And, and if we can just, each of us do one, just think of the impact that would have, So you've experienced this and you look at things a little bit differently now. Would you say that had you stayed at the hotel and they didn't do this, would you stay at that hotel again?
If I did, it would only be because of the proximity. Because like I said, it has a beautiful atrium, but the rest of the hotel, the beds are comfortable, but it's outdated. The bathrooms are dark. There's not enough light. And I will say in their defense, I did find out by Christmas they were renovating all that. It's such an interesting question, Elaine, because we see so much work on customer service and the ultimate experience and what everything should be like. And yet, it was the experience of the people versus the processes or systems in place. Unless maybe that's one of theirs that we don't know about, right? Is to really, and if it is, even more kudos to them, because there are sometimes you go to a hotel and you expect certain things. That they're going to hand you a bag with a bottle of water or whatever, or they're going to put a cookie on your pillow, or they're going to do something. This was one of those that wasn't on the radar. And that, as we said, is the effort, but that's the customer service piece that, it creates the loyalty. Absolutely. Especially now that I know they've renovated, but I do try to stay at others. I've always had a good experience, but this really was like, it's almost like a bonding moment,
Right. But that's awesome, though.
It touched my heart. It really did. It wasn't the typical, and we're blessed or cursed, I don't know which, to stay in hotels all the time. Some we love, some we're thinking, are you sure this is a hotel?
Right.
And I think at any one of those, that something like that could make the biggest difference. Just that, recognition of where I was and what I was going through.
Mm-hmm. Well, and again, it speaks to the hotel itself, the management, hiring that type of person or those types of people, but also giving them the flexibility and the ability to do those types of things.
Right.
Unfortunately, some businesses are so strict about what you can and cannot do as an employee because of liability, or, if you do this for one person, you have to do it for that person, whatever it might be. But to recognize that every person has a different story or a different situation they're going through, and to be able to give their employees, empower them to make those decisions, to do those things, is, that's, you don't find that much anymore.
Yeah, and I'll be honest, I have wondered, like, did they just do it on a whim? Like, is this something they would have done? I don't know, but it had a lasting effect on me for sure.
Well, and maybe it is the policy. Maybe the hotel does say, if somebody's coming in because they're grieving, do it. But all right, let's say, Susie, behind the desk, knows this about you. Maybe it's their policy that she should do something. But if she doesn't, who's going to know?
Exactly.
Right? So, it's integrity, do it even when no one's looking. And so if it is a policy, great that they have it as a policy. But if they don't, that's a greater story. So,
yeah, absolutely. I always like to think maybe there was a little rebel who said, you know what, this is the right thing to do. I'm going to run out and do this no matter what. I don't know.
I like that. Yeah. I think that, I don't care if, I'm not supposed to, I'm going to do this. Right. And, you hear stories about people doing that. One that comes to mind is many years ago, like a donut place had a drive-through or whatever. And one of my coworkers sat through the drive-through, morning to get their coffee and their donut or bagel or whatever it was, and got up to the window and realized she didn't have her purse.
Ooh.
And the cashier went ahead and paid for it, because she had been going there, 5 days a week for a long time. And she's like, I promise I'll pay you back tomorrow, whatever. Well, unfortunately, the management found out about it, and they let that person go because they have a strict policy not to do that. So, and I get it, because then you start commingling monies, and, if you don't do it for one person, but you do it for another, is there some, issue there? But today, knowing those types of things are out there, it's even more meaningful when people go above and beyond in such a sweet way when you're hurting so much.
Yeah, it really was. And I definitely will stay there again when I go back.
Yeah. How many times have you told this story?
Oh gosh, probably not enough now that you and I are talking, but quite a bit. Enough that I convinced my brothers to stay there. I told all our friends that's why we were staying there when we were. I grew up in Dallas, so when we went back for this, I was, catching up with a lot of people, and they'd be like, "Well, where are you staying?" And I said, "Well, I'm staying by this place right by Mom's house," because they were so good to me, and so a lot of local people out there too. And I actually went on. They're part of, I believe, Hilton, and I went on a Hilton site and I tagged the hotel, and I did everything social media I knew how to do. I posted it. We put pictures up of the flowers and the card, and I did the Embassy Suite side and the Hilton side to get the promotion going. Unfortunately, I don't have a follow-up as far as however that went, but I did my best to try to really say, hey, look what this amazing group of people did for me that they didn't even know me. You know?
Well, and it's so important to share that positivity, because, especially with social media and the internet, it's very easy when we're upset or angry to type away, like, you wouldn't believe the kind of service I got. It was horrible, blah, 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 blah. But we don't do that when it's a positive experience. Right. We don't go to vent online. And so the fact that you did share it online, that's, again, it's kind of the echo effect, because you're putting it out there, and that's important. We need to share the positives. We need to encourage good behavior and, random acts of kindness. And the way you encourage that is by acknowledging it. So,
well, and one of the ending that I didn't share was that, of course, I had to fly home and I couldn't take the flowers with me.
Oh.
And, when I had gone out there, I knew Mom's house had no AC. I wasn't planning on really having any type of cooking facility, refrigerator, or anything. They, you have your little fridge, but
right.
So I gave them the vase back. I took the flowers and I laid them on Mom's gravesite, and I brought the card home with me. So then I got to do that as well. So yeah, it was really,
wow,
it was really nice.
That is so touching, and so, it's full circle, getting the flowers and then putting them on the gravesite, and, having those memories and having that experience with the hotel, and, in a moment, in a time when you're sad and it's bittersweet, it's still nice
It was very nice.
to get those good feelings going and things like that. So what did your husband say when you told him that they did this for you?
He was like, wow, really? Like, he was kind of blown away, that again, the same thing, that somebody would do that, because we're so used to, the kind of the happy things, or they might help you with your luggage, the basics, right? We have our basic expectations. And it's funny, we talk about complaining. When our basic expectations aren't met, we complain. When they're met, we expected them to be met, right?
Right.
But when they exceed, I think we've got to tell those stories, because, and he travels a lot too. And, it's typically the type where he's sometimes going from Atlanta he used to go from Atlanta to Salt Lake City in one day back, which is insane. But so by the time he's done doing his work, maybe a 12-hour day, he's at the hotel to sleep and get up and go back the next day. It's not necessarily a luxury for him. So he was the same way. He's like, I really can't believe. And you have to kind of put in perspective the amount of hotels around the area in Dallas, and that while this was in a fairly good location in terms of the North Dallas area, it wasn't the higher end hotels. It was great for what I needed. But, so, your service level, like my expectation level was good. It wasn't bad, but it wasn't 5-star, right?
Right.
And yet the experience I had put them right up at the top of any place I've been. So I think the whole family, like I said, I shared the photos, that I got hundreds of comments on Facebook on it. And, and my goal wasn't really for me. It was to say, hey, look what's out there. Look what this hotel did. I really wanted them to get the kudos for it.
Well, that's awesome. And did they reach out to you at all afterwards?
No, but I did. My brothers, when they stayed there in December, they were like, hey, my sister stayed here and y'all gave her flowers and we really appreciate it. And I don't think it was the same person at the front desk at that point, but
right.
Well,
the likelihood is probably fairly low.
Well, that between shift change, everything.
Right.
But.
Well, that's awesome. So if we're coming near to the end of our time together, but if there's one thing or two things that you would want to share and specifically speak to for the world to hear about these types of experiences, whether or not it's encouragement or whatever it might be, what would that be? How would you want to end this for our audience today?
Well, I think now more than ever, it's so important for us to really try to understand each other and where we're coming from and what our experiences are, and to acknowledge that. I mean, that's what they did for me. They really could have just said, have a nice day, right?
Right.
But whether as much as I was trying to hide it, they could see that it was still very fresh. And what they really did was took the time to acknowledge something that was very real for me, even if I wasn't really ready. I wasn't going to talk about it, let alone with people I didn't know. They looked deeper than what was really being said. And I don't think we do that enough these days. I'm not sure how much technology hinders us in that, and especially with COVID not being able to be in person. I know that's something people are really hurting for. Yeah. But it's to really, really try to understand and see where the other person's coming from, listen for what's not being said, and acknowledge people for who they are and where they are.
I love that. Listen for what's not being said. I mean, if people would do that today, given their circumstances, how would things be different?
Right.
Well, Kricket, as I said, your story is similar to one that I have, and I love your story, and that's one of the reasons I wanted to do this, is that I think it's important. The positivity needs to be put out there, and we need to encourage people to share their positive stories about whether or not they impacted or were impacted by someone. Again, thank you so much for coming on, and it was great hearing your story. I'm sorry about the loss of your mother, but at least you got to experience some great love from someone that doesn't even know you.
Yeah, so and thank you for giving me the opportunity to share it.
Yeah, absolutely. So thank you for sharing with us. And for those in the audience, if you would like to be a guest on our show, or and share your stories or story, please email Brandy Bean. That's Brandy Bean is B as in boy, B as in boy, EANE at yourechoeffect.com. Her email address again is B as in boy, EANE e@yourechoeffect.com to schedule your interview today. Thanks, everybody.